Who's that coming down the track? It's a mean machine in red and white. Ain't nothing finer in the land. Than a drunk obnoxious Georgia man. Go, go! Go, go!
What's up, y'all? This is John, Mike, and Caleb back for another episode of the Nothing Finer podcast. As always, you can find us as a part of Fans First Sports Network and on millions.co. Tonight, we are giving our biggest drop-off teams going into the 2025 season. If you guys remember last year, those are the teams that we think are going to suffer the most between 2024 and 2025, going to take the biggest step backwards. But we got a lot that we're getting to tonight. It's mostly trash talk, which I think that's like that might be the second best thing we do around here, and I don't know what the first is.
I was gonna say, Mike, I think that's the best thing to do.
The first is bringing a lot of facts.
Yeah.
Indeed.
But before we get into all that, how you been? What are you drinking?
Don't all speak at once. I have been good. Spent the weekend sleeping in the woods, and I am still recovering from the sunburn that gave me.
Oh, I thought you were going to say your back hurts.
Well, I mean, that too, because the air mattress just kept slowly deflating throughout the night, which was a lot of fun to deal with. But it was a good time, other than we probably got hit with the worst thunderstorm that we have ever been hit with while camping. I mean, it was pretty ridiculous.
Oh, y'all were camping last weekend?
Yeah.
Oh, I was up in Winder when that hit, and we thought our house was about to flood.
Yeah, so that Friday night we stayed, and then we saw that Saturday was supposed to be even worse, and we did not stay Saturday.
Yeah.
But you know, it was a good Friday.
Well, not the best Friday.
Well, yeah, of course, but you know, it's a pretty decent Friday all around. Would have been better without the storm, but it is, and without the sunburn, but it is what it is. So, what about y'all? How you doing?
Man, I am doing wonderful. Neighbors came over, gave me some stuff, so I am. I'm not gonna say what I am, but doing very well. I can text y'all how I feel. But I won't say it on here.
I think I get the message anyway.
Oh, I don't know if you do. I'm gonna send it.
If you're gonna say that, then I need to see that text message.
Yeah.
Oh, I got.
It's not what I'm thinking. I got to know what it is.
Yeah. So my sister and nephews are in town for a week. They got a condo over on Tybee, so went swimming, went to Huckapoos for dinner. I will say I finally got some new tires on the Jeep this week. They are larger than my old tires, and that kind of hurts in two ways. They're currently too big for my tire carrier, so my entire back seat is just a tire.
Hell yeah.
And also, my wife is short. My Jeep is tall. So
that sounds like the title of a country song.
Yeah. Yeah, she's mad that I got bigger tires because now she has an even harder time getting in the Jeep. So,
oh man,
it's funny to me though.
Yeah, you gotta get one of those little steps that automatically comes down like a lot of the trucks have.
Man, this Jeep is the same age I am. I am getting
a stool. That's not.
I am buying her a stool.
Fair enough.
Very good.
But let's go ahead and get into it.
Yeah.
I think a couple of ours are pretty obvious, and I think a couple of ours are probably going to make people upset, especially when some of these clips go to Instagram.
That's the fun part, man.
Yeah.
And I really think my first pick is there's going to be a lot of people, a couple hours for me, that are highly upset by this. But
there's going to be a lot of Georgia fans upset by this.
But what I said?
by your first pick here. Like I think as people are high on this team, I think a lot of folks are going to be upset, and not just the folks who are in this particular part of the country.
All right, so my first pick, I got the University of South Carolina, and I look, I know, I know everything you're yelling at your phone right now. I know, I do. I know that they were unexpectedly 9-3 last year. I know that they had probably the best argument of 9-3 team in the country to make the playoff. I understand all of that. But what I don't think y'all understand is that was 2024, and this is 2025. And here's the biggest issue. Lenore Sellers is going to get screwed.
Ooh.
So I think arguably he's a top 3 returning quarterback in the SEC this year. I don't know who you like. It would have to be a argument for someone ahead of him.
Yeah, and I was about to say I don't think he's 3 either.
Yeah.
He's top 3 and he ain't 3.
Yeah.
For sure.
So the issue is that they're losing a lot, and I'm not convinced that the guys replacing who they are losing are going to take up anything close to the production. So Rocket Sanders last season for the South Carolina, huge driving force in the offense. What happened in the games where he was hurt? Let's say against Ole Miss, 8 carries, 29 yards. They lost that game.
Not good.
Not good. We're not putting the LSU game on him because they should have won that game. It was
Indeed.
something as simple as don't hit the quarterback after he's thrown the ball. Who'd have thought like a rule is punishable when you break it? And then even when you're leading in that game in the fourth quarter, if you have Robbie Ashford, I'm sorry, you're not going to be leading in the fourth quarter for long.
Facts.
Yeah.
But in the Alabama game, 16 carries, 78 yards, not a bad game, but he was hurt. He was never explosive in that game. And those are the 2 games they lost that kept them out of the playoff. Had they won either of those games, I think South Carolina's in over SMU, and I don't think it's close.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
Going into the wide receiver room, last year it was thin and weak, like pre-serum Captain America. It didn't get any better. They have Nick Harbor still acting like a track athlete that puts on football pads.
We know about those.
That's the only person I can think of off the top of my head out of their wide receiver room. That is the extent.
Oh, yeah. I'm sitting here trying to think too, and I also got nothing.
So. Yeah.
That's more than me. That's more than me.
But I think they're going to struggle on the defensive side of the ball. That's where the biggest drop-off is going to come from. Losing Kyle Kennard, who is a menace in the middle of that defense. Tonka Hemingway also on the defensive line. Both safeties. Safety was their best position on the field last year. And like, do they have Dylan Stewart? Yes. Is he a phenomenal pass rusher? Yes. He's not big. And he's not going to be effective every down of every game because of his size.
And look at a Michael Williams, right? Michael Williams is a phenomenal pass rusher and was a phenomenal pass rusher for the University of Georgia. There's no doubt about that. He played his best when he had other guys on the defensive line who could also rush the quarterback. 2023, he kind of had a rough time, which he wasn't playing every game, I don't think, in 2023.
No.
But the point still stands. He had a better time when he had a Jalen Walker or a Jalen Carter or somebody on the line that could wreak the havoc, and then he could clean up the scraps. And that's not a knock on Michael Williams or on Dylan at all. They're both phenomenal players, but you've got a role, and you can only really execute your role if the other players are executing theirs. And I don't know without Kyle Kennard if they have that at South Carolina right now.
There's a reason that people are still talking about Jadeveon Clowney this many years later.
Yeah,
because he was the entire defense. Were the safeties good? Yes, the safeties back then were good. That's the one thing South Carolina seems to always have, are 2 really good safeties. But Jadeveon Clowney still talked about the way he is because he was the front 7. and he was a one-man wrecking crew in every single game. And there were still games that he kind of disappeared in because that you just can't structure a defense off of one guy.
Well, especially that last year that he played.
Yes.
That was
Yeah.
tough.
But the biggest reason South Carolina is going to struggle going into 2025 is their offensive line. This is something that we've talked to Chris Phillips about. I think he's the one a few years ago said, yeah, it's great to have 5 guys returning on the offensive line, but what if those 5 guys sucked?
Yeah.
Great point.
Yeah.
Factual.
And South Carolina gave up 41 sacks last year. I know they had some injuries on that line.
That's a
41
lot.
sacks is still awful.
It's a
They gave
lot.
up more sacks last year than Mississippi State. They gave up the
Yikes.
most sacks of any team in the SEC last season. And
Yeah.
that's gonna hurt. And
That is gonna hurt.
I hate it for Lenore Sellers because he's going to be phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
But they have an offset of talent between him and everybody else in their timeline. Like, he is at a polished, close to finished product. The offensive line's still high school juniors.
Yeah.
The wide receivers are still in 7th grade. And the defense is like showing up to college is where we're at. And South Carolina's going to suffer because of that. And I don't think that Shane Beamer should get put on the hot seat like we all know he will if they drop back to 7-5.
I mean, 7-5 for South Carolina is pretty good
Yes,
traditionally.
but we all know they're delusional. And 9-3 last year, if you don't go 10-2, it's a failure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to go South Carolina, but the more I looked into it, it really was like that was the most obvious choice for me.
Yeah, it makes sense. I don't like it because I kind of want South Carolina to be good, but a quarterback alone does not a team make. As I said a couple weeks ago when we were doing our top 10s.
Yep.
So while we're talking about teams that are dropping off, guys, hate to tell you this, but you all need to hear this. Georgia will be dropping off their players in Miami on January 19th for the national championship game. But speaking of Miami, that is exactly who I'm talking about. Miami is about to fall off. Maybe not necessarily in terms of record, but in terms of accomplishment or apparent accomplishment. Give me just 1 second. Sorry, the Seekers don't come again like they did last time. Anyway, so as I was saying, Carson Beck, if you heard of him, are you familiar with Carson Beck?
I've tried to forget.
Yeah, so has whatever Cavender he was dating. But he is not Cam Ward.
Definitely not.
And Xavier Restrepo ain't out there catching passes for him. They also lost.
Arroyo.
I was about to say they lost a couple other top receivers too. While they really only picked up one in the transfer portal. They did pick up Bert Auburn, the kicker from Texas, though. So
Carson's very familiar
maybe
with
I'm wrong about all.
because speaking of Bert Auburn, have you seen that video that came out last week or so about Bert Auburn right before he kicked a potential game-winning field goal in the SEC game?
Did not know.
No, I haven't seen this.
So he was warming up. And some female staff of some sort for the University of Texas in what appeared to be very tight pants walked between him and the kicking net. And his eyes followed them. And then he made one last warm-up kick and went out and missed the field goal.
That is tough.
Blood was not in his foot.
Yeah, he and Carson seem very similar.
Yeah.
Anyway,
You got some South Beach dogs. and
Yeah,
not the good kind.
So hopefully Carson doesn't put them in any positions where they need field goals to win.
Bad news. That was most of last season.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Now Beck did lose both his girlfriend and his Lamborghini since going to Miami.
As one would.
So Georgia fans, they were blaming those things for his backslide. So maybe he'll be okay, but he's still not going to be half the player he was in 2023, and he's not playing with half the team he was playing with in 2024. And as long as there are BBLs in Miami, there are plenty of things to distract Carson Beck. So I don't see him having an amazing performance. Not that this is all on him, but we're here to talk trash. What can I say? Again, it's probably not going to be a gigantic drop off in terms of record. They'll probably still go like 9-4 just because of their schedule this year, but they will not.
They're in the ACC. Yeah.
Yeah, but they will not be cracking the top 15 again at any point this season. They will not be getting talked about as a potential playoff contender this season like they were because of Cam Ward last season. It just ain't happening. Carson, as we know, is not that dude.
And it was mostly Cam Ward last year because the defense still was not good.
Yeah.
No. I mean, y'all saw what happened.
It's not getting any better either.
No.
Y'all saw what happened in the Pop-Tart Bowl.
Yep.
I was more talking about let's talk. Well, they gave up 48 points to Louisville. They gave up
Tough. Yeah.
In regulation. I think they gave up 38 to Georgia Tech in a losing effort.
Yeah. Poor Cam Ward. He could have gone to the playoff, and he deserved to go to the playoff if not for his defense.
Just imagine if Cam Ward was wearing red and black last year.
Had
a quarterback that could hit wide receivers in the hands, not freak out.
Yeah.
And Cam Ward, as you can see by the videos that came out during draft prep of Shadur trying to get him to like make a song or go do some Instagram stuff. He's
Dude just wants to play football.
He's like, I play football.
Yeah.
No, man, let's go party. No, I play football.
Yeah. Is Carson Beck that way?
Doubt.
Depends
not
on
100% sure. But let's put it like this: if this was a test, I'd still be getting A+. Wow, sure I am.
Right. Ooh. All right. So, so my first pick, and I think we all wanted this pick, and
we all wanted to say it.
I just got there first. But I wasn't great about putting information in about this particular one, but
we'll fill it in. Don't you worry.
We will fill it in. We'll talk shit the next 10 minutes about this. But my pick for the fall-off team is Tennessee.
Rocky Flop, you'll always be bottom of the whatever he said.
Yeah.
Man, I wish I'd have thought about that because I still do have Wes's audio saved.
Oh dang!
And
we got to prepare that for Tennessee this year, September.
That's still gross. Tennessee is in September.
I know.
Yeah, it's tough.
It feels so wrong.
But I do have Tennessee in the drop off team category here. I mean, we just got to take a moment to laugh at Tennessee, right?
Oh, of course.
Yes, and when we talked about the whole Nico thing a few weeks ago, I applauded Tennessee for what they did.
Of course.
But at the same time, not mutually exclusive to be like, man, y'all did the right thing here.
But it's not going to help you this season.
Right. You still have to suffer the consequences of your own actions. And those actions were paying Nico $8 million as a high school kid. And then 2 years later, finding out he wasn't worth it. Yep. But then you go ahead and sign Joey Aguilar, which, if y'all remember from last offseason, I was high on App State and Joey Aguilar for 2024. Turns out I may have just been high. Because Joey Aguilar led the country in interceptions at App State.
Big oof. Big oof.
Yeah, and he's Tennessee has better wide receivers than App State did. Still not great. The wide receiver room's really dropped off since Jalen Hyatt and the other guy. I cannot.
Cedric Tillman,
Cedric
my
Tillman.
cousin.
Yep, your cousin. We're really glad that he has not convinced you to wear that gaudy orange.
Oh no one ever could.
But no, Mike had to step away for a minute. I think we all agree about Tennessee. I mean, Dylan Sampson is gone. They have
Yep.
last year's interception leader for the entire country going to be playing quarterback, or a redshirt freshman from Savannah. Shout out. But still no experience.
Yep.
Wide receiver room, not great. You lost your best defensive player to the draft, and he had a down year last year. So now you got Boo Carter at star, and that is the star of your defense. And you never want your nickelback to be the best player on your defense.
Very true.
So,
Let me just go through their schedule real quick so we can figure out what their record is going to be this year and if they have a chance of making the playoff again.
LOL.
Let's see. Aflac kickoff game against Syracuse. Fran Brown and all that. That's not a guaranteed win.
With Steve Angeli, the Notre Dame quarterback that could actually throw forward passes last year.
Yeah.
Going to the Syracuse air raid offense.
Good luck. So not saying it's a guaranteed loss, but it sure ain't a guaranteed win either.
Yep.
So we got that. East Tennessee State. Yeah, okay. Probably win that one. Georgia at home.
That's going to be tough without a quarterback and
Yeah.
running back and wide receivers and most of the defense.
Yep. UAB. Okay.
Nope. Don't sleep on the Blazers. Trent Dilfer is building something down there.
Facts. Let me see. We got Mississippi State.
That is probably the second easiest game on their schedule so far.
Yeah, and I still wouldn't call it a guaranteed thing.
Oh, is it Stark Vegas?
It is in fact Stark Vegas, so
Oof.
anything can happen. Arkansas. This time it's at Neyland, but you never know.
Yeah, if you're asking, do I believe more in Taylon Green or Joey Aguilar, Zach Merklinger? I'm saying Taylon Green.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see. Then they got to go to Bryant Denny.
All right, I will go ahead and call that an L.
Yeah, that's absolutely an L. And
Yeah,
spoiler alert for later. Alabama ain't gonna make it too great either this season, but that's an L.
Yeah, you can't go into Bryant Denny without a top tier quarterback and win that game. We saw that last year.
Yep. Then they got to go to Chad Kroger Field.
That may actually be a game this year.
Yeah.
I'm really interested to see what Kentucky's going to do this season after kind of the drama surrounding the program, kind of overturning the recruiting staff, bringing in a transfer quarterback, and finally having a high school guy that they may start. The defense is still a giant question mark. They've lost a lot, but at the same time, man, every time you doubt Mark Stoops, he finds a way to prove you wrong.
Yeah, he'll start like 5-0 and then get blown out by Georgia, but that's just what he does. Oklahoma is next, but it's in Knoxville. Then New Mexico State. We know what happens when New Mexico State comes to town on a down year for you. Then they got to go to DJ Lagway's house. And then
the big
Vanderbilt
question with that game is how healthy is Florida and DJ Lagway?
Yep. And if the question is relatively healthy in any way, that's another L for Tennessee. So we're looking at, what do we say? Probably like 9-3 is the ceiling, which is already worse than last year.
That would be a very high ceiling too.
Yes.
Because you got to remember, Oklahoma's got John Mateer who I'm not sold on, but I'm not doubting as a starter at Oklahoma.
Yeah.
There's no way Oklahoma can be as injured in 2025 as they
Yeah.
were in 2024.
Yeah.
And if
Like,
and if they are, somebody needs to get Annabelle out of the locker room.
yeah. Tennessee could miss a bowl game this year. Like, they've got that kind of schedule
Yes.
and that kind of drop off.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen
And
what
if they do, I
happens.
will laugh.
Yes, we have seen what happens when Tennessee has some quote unquote guaranteed out of conference wins.
Yep.
Um,
Uh,
that will
hey,
also
Georgia
be
State, how you
referenced here in a
doing?
minute. All right, Mike, we're finishing up on Tennessee. Do you have anything left to say about this distraught program that may
Uh,
not be in the SEC much longer?
I kind of I heard some stuff in passing dealing with the multitude of kids I have in this house right now, but
You do know where they come from, right?
not all of them are mine.
Oh,
I'll tell you guys afterward. um, yeah, I mean, they traded out Nico for a guy that threw more picks, so that's tough, and that's not what you want as a from your quarterback.
They do have Calvary Day standout behind Joey.
there we go.
They're okay. They do have some hope, possibly.
It's not a
But you
lot.
know what? Yeah, but hopefully not, because I hope all the bad things that happened to Tennessee and happen to them only. So yeah, they're gonna fall off, and they're not gonna be a playoff team next year. I can almost bet my life on that. They're not gonna
We
be a
we
playoff
were
team.
just talking about how they might not be a bowl team next year. So.
I personally that's what I hope for the most.
Mhm.
But at the same time, like if they keep Bobby Hill as a head coach,
Oh, he gets a
that's fair
pass this
too.
year. He gets a pass this year. You lose Nico after spring's over. Like,
Yeah,
he gets a pass this year, especially because he stood up to a guy that wanted more money for playing like shit. You know?
Right.
yeah.
And
Which is
because
great. Which
even with the changed rules, he was the guy who got Tennessee to the playoff. They
yeah,
still couldn't beat Georgia, but at least they made the playoff.
Yeah.
which is
He's
great.
beaten
I
Bama
mean, what is
twice.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
that's wild. Yeah. I don't know how many other Tennessee quarterbacks can say that in the last like 25 years.
I don't even think Peyton could say that.
No, I don't think he could.
No, I don't. No, I don't. Probably not. No, that's
Yeah.
tough. Can't relate.
And somebody in the late '90s probably, but
T Martin for sure.
yeah.
He only played Bama once.
Oh, okay.
Want to know?
John came prepared.
Well, he only started 1 year, and it was the last time they were relevant.
Oh, right,
AKA
right.
98.
Yeah.
Uh,
Remember to say 1998 to your local Tennessee fan today.
Remember to just not talk to your local Tennessee fan.
True.
All
you
right.
know, they really don't want to show their faces, like for the most part. Like Florida fans around, like John and I, will say stuff occasionally. They'll get shut down, but Tennessee fans, not so much in the coastal empire area.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Around here, we've got some close family friends who are all crazy about Tennessee. The first time I watched a Georgia Tennessee game with them was the 2016 game. I've watched
Yeah.
3 others with them since, and they don't like it anymore.
Yeah. So, ironically, I have not had a Tennessee fan walk up to me while I'm wearing Georgia stuff and have a conversation since Hendon Hooker had 2 knees.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Well, since
Can't imagine what happened.
since before Stetson picked up the phone.
Yeah.
That the week before that was the last time a Tennessee fan started the conversation with me having Georgia stuff on.
Oh, you mean when they got clickbaited into being #1 for 4 days?
Yes,
Oh,
absolutely.
that was so sweet.
Mhm.
I know we need to talk about like moments that we wish we could relive again, but that's definitely one of them.
So many of those are actually Tennessee getting their
Yes.
hopes destroyed.
That's
Yeah.
again. I talked about my countdown last week. I'll talk about it again. So many of them. Today, I posted one, and I'm about 30 days ahead making them. And both of my things, what I posted today and what I made today, were wins over Tennessee.
Yeah. There we go.
I mean, just off the top of my head, Stetson phone call game.
Yeah.
Absolutely, just to start to finish that game. being in a bar in Athens after a Georgia game and watching Georgia State beat Tennessee.
Yes.
I mean, it had to
All-time
be
moment.
sweet. Yeah.
Being in a bar in Athens after a Georgia game and watching BYU beat Tennessee. So many good moments.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Just 41-0 game in 2017 is one of my personal favorites as well.
that Eric Stokes
Huh?
sack
Yeah.
is my favorite play to go back and like singular play to go back and watch.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure.
That is yeah.
Took
All right.
his soul.
We
Yeah.
we have danced on the grave of Tennessee for a minute here. Let's go ahead and get into second round of picks. So for my second one, I really actually tried to go outside of the SEC, and I'll just tell you a couple of the programs I looked at and realized that I was wrong. Oregon.
I thought about them too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
same. Yep.
because here's the thing: if Oregon drops off, it won maybe 2 games. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just the schedule is actually easier this year than it was last year. All their tough games are at home. Okay, yeah, Oregon, you get to keep that. I also thought about Ohio State, but they also kind of sucked in the regular season.
Yeah.
I don't think they're doing worse than 10-2 in the regular season, and we can't accurately project postseason performance. So, and then I also, ironically thought about Southern California again, like I called last year, and then I realized how right we were last year, because boy, they shouldn't get much worse
Yeah.
with Lincoln Riley as the coach. Like his ceiling is 11-1 in the Big Ten. His floor is still 7-5. Like
Yeah.
he's not
And he's
a
hit
bad
that
coach.
floor quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a wild range.
So those are 3 Big Ten teams I looked at. The Big 12 is just they're all over the place. We're all high on all the teams that did well last year, shockingly. We're all really high on BYU and Iowa State and Arizona State.
So good.
So, could I have said Colorado? Maybe. Should
thought
I
about it.
have? Yes.
Probably.
Yeah.
But we all know that one too. It's
Yeah.
a little too easy.
All right.
Colorado has a kid from Carrollton, the Juju. So maybe.
Yeah, the guy that committed to like 3 different schools as a quarterback because whoever offered him more money and gave him an extra diamond on his watch got his commitment that week.
True.
Shocking.
Yeah.
Yeah, crazy that he ended up at Colorado. Who could have seen that coming?
Wild.
Right.
I wonder
wild-
how
and wild
many
that Dion-
toe rings Dion gave him because he don't need 10 anymore.
So who's the pick?
All right,
Who'd
so
you
my
go
second
with?
pick, Ole Miss. And I know that Mike and I for the last few years have been really high on Ole Miss.
Very high Ole Miss. I thought about putting them here as well, but I want to hear your reason for it.
All right, so Ole Miss blew their load in 2024 with not making the playoffs with a super team. That you could argue their super team had bigger names than Ohio State everywhere but the offensive line and the secondary.
Mm-hmm.
Jackson Dart at quarterback was a bigger name than Will Howard. Jackson Dart, arguably through the regular season last year, played better. And if you throw out the Florida game, he played significantly better than Will Howard did throughout the season. And Jackson Dart's replacement is quarterback Ryan Williams, and that every broadcast.
Not the 17-year-old kid.
No. It is because.
Oh, you're saying it's the quarterback version of him. Okay.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
quarterback version.
Yeah.
So because he graduated college at 19, so every time he throws a pass in a game this year, the broadcast is going to be like, "Hey, that kid graduated college at 19." Like that kid's only 17. We heard all year last year.
Yeah.
But Austin Simmons will be good, but will he put the team on his back and take hits by freight trains to get a first down good? Probably not. You have to have a special part of your brain that's demented enough to attempt to kill yourself on a football field like Matt Corral and Jackson Dart to be that guy for Ole Miss. The running back room, they didn't show up last season. Should be healthier. Also, Ulysses Bentley won't, be forced like handcuffed to the bench by Lane Kiffin this year. So should be better.
Yeah.
The wide receiver room took a huge hit from aging out of college. They have one guy that had stats for Ole Miss in 2024 coming back, and that's Caden Lee. He was very good last year, but he's still the only guy with experience in that offense coming to the team or coming back to the team in 2025. The offensive line was the weakest part of the team last season, and they didn't get any better. Then going over to the defensive line took the biggest hits. J.J. Pegues, gone. Princely Uman-Mielen, gone. Jared Ivey, gone. Walter Nolan, gone. Moving to the linebackers, Chris Paul Jr., gone. In the secondary, the second worst unit on the entire team last year, the one bright spot, Trey Amos, gone. And Ole Miss, they're always going to recruit well out of the transfer portal. They're always going to recruit okay out of high school. None of those guys have done it on this team. Caden Prescorn, tight end, phenomenal tight end for them over the last couple of years. He's gone. They're replacing him with Luke Haas from Arkansas. But Luke Haas spent half of his freshman season injured, spent half of his sophomore season injured. So he doesn't really have any long-term proven production in college at all, let alone for Ole Miss. And to make things worse, their manageable schedule that they fumbled in 2024 gets more difficult in 2025. They start off with Del McGee and Georgia State.
Hey, Tennessee, how you doing?
Yup. Yup. Then they have away games at Kentucky, a team they lost to in Oxford last year.
Tough.
They're playing at Georgia, at Oklahoma, and at Mississippi State.
Ooh.
The most winnable away game they have next year is Mississippi State, which is a rivalry game that through the last few years has been significantly tighter than it should have been.
Yeah.
Right.
Their home games, Arkansas, Tulane, and LSU back to back. That's tough.
Yeah.
And then they have Wazoo, South Carolina. And then, damn it, I didn't put that last team on there. But they're playing Washington State at home in the middle of the year.
That's a weird one.
Yeah.
And those weird ones don't tend to go the way of the favorite.
No.
At least in terms of the point spread.
Here we go. Last home, well, they play Citadel after South Carolina. And then they play Florida at home.
Ooh.
Oh, sheesh.
That's not a guarantee either.
No, it is not. So the schedule that was easy last year, you had tough games. You had 2 or 3 tough games in 2024. You lost 2 easy games.
Yeah.
And it gets tougher. You're losing so much proven talent on both sides of the football, both sides of the line of scrimmage. Your quarterback, your only good secondary player. Like, I don't know what they're going to. I'm not saying Ole Miss is going 7-5, 8-4. But, man, I don't think Ole Miss is in the playoff conversation. And I think they're significantly far off of the playoff conversation.
No, I agree with that.
Yeah, wouldn't surprise me one bit. All right, so jumping in, we discussed, this is basically a trash talking podcast at this point, and I'm about to go all into that and talk about some people that I don't like. Kalen DeBad coach and the Alabama Minstrel Cramps are falling off hard this year. Part of that is just me being a hater. A part of that is wishful thinking. But part of that is also based on some reality. So let's take a look at what they've got going on their roster this year. Their quarterback room sounds like they're names that you would find on the roster of a knockoff wrestling video game. Does anyone know who they are? Could you name them?
Well, Ty Simpson's still there.
Yeah.
Austin Mack is there, right?
Austin, yep. Generic wrestling name if I've ever heard one.
That sounds like a guy that the WWE's trying out for a few weeks, and then if people like him, they're gonna they're gonna like hold him back for a month and give him an actual personality and character, and then reintroduce him.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've just described the whole way WWE does things. um, so they've got that problem, and they're really losing some dudes in the transfer portal, like dudes who contributed. Like they're obviously not losing Ryan Williams, but he is also no longer 17, so that might be a problem.
Yeah.
But they are losing some guys who really contributed to their team, and they're losing them to places like Baylor and Vanderbilt and Kentucky and Michigan. Seriously, who would ever go to Michigan?
Seriously.
Here's the thing. Going to Michigan in the summer, yeah, dude, whatever. It's probably nicer up there than it is down here. But you're big dog. You are signing up for Michigan in the fall. You sure you want to do that?
Okay, Michigan in the fall isn't bad. Michigan in the other like 6 months after that.
I was about to say.
Problem is, and when you're in Michigan in the fall, you got to watch the Lions play football too, and that's
watching the Lions play football, not bad.
Oh.
Watching the Lions play defense,
yeah.
There's a lot of things that I'd rather do.
That's it, with their quarterback Jack Goff or whatever his name is.
It's all tough. I don't know. I'm not. You know what?
Anyway, but bringing it back to serious, they do have some guys coming in via the transfer portal, but they are not nearly as many as the guys they've lost, and they don't seem to hold a candle to the guys that they've lost. So that is going to be a downgrade. They'll probably beat Georgia anyway, because that's what they always manage to do.
This Georgia game's at home.
It is at night.
Yeah,
it's a home night
yeah.
game.
When has Georgia ever lost a home night game to Alabama?
I mean, that was a lifetime ago. I guess during puberty at that point, maybe.
You were going through puberty in 2015.
Oh fuck! That's a night.
That wasn't a night. That's true. That's true.
That was a 3:30 game. I remember. I was there.
And I will say,
there's pictures. There.
I will say, we keep talking about our weird game rules. Games don't count if I had to watch them at my cousin's house, because my parents were there, and that is true of 2007 Tennessee and 2008 Alabama for sure. But yeah. So anyway, I do think they're hitting a pretty serious downward trend this year. It would not surprise me to see them go 7-5. I don't think they have anything on that roster except the no longer 17-year-old Ryan Williams.
It's tough. Indeed. All right, so my last pick, going back to the Big Ten, I do have Indiana. The Hoosiers came back down to earth after making their first playoff. Key losses include quarterback Curtis Rourke, leading rushers Justice Ellison and Tyson Lawson. I don't know why I put it in there, but there it is.
Is he Vietnamese? So y'all can't see this in the notes, but yeah, he spelled it Thai space Sun.
Yeah, with it. Fuck. they definitely lost a bunch of people on, worth the damn. I'm sorry. Anyway, recruiting wise, I can't even get to the other parts I had there, but recruiting wise, 2025, they were 44th in high school recruiting, 18th in the portal recruiting rankings. So that's tough for Indiana. Their schedule is 300% tougher. And I'm, again, not a math guy, but I think that's right. Instead of just playing just Ohio State, they have 3 hard games. At Penn State, at Oregon, and at Illinois, who won 10 games last year. So Indiana is going to be hurting next year.
Yeah.
You don't think Fernando Mendoza at quarterback's the answer?
Fernando.
Depends on what the question is.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, if any referee in college knew what targeting was, Fernando Mendoza and Cal beat Miami last year.
Fair. Yes.
Yeah.
So.
But Indiana, no one cares.
That is also a valid point.
So yeah, it's definitely tough. So we will see about Indiana. Doesn't feel great though.
Yeah. All right, guys, that's gonna do it for this episode of the Nothing Finder podcast. As always, follow us on social media at nothing.finder.pod on Instagram, at FinderPod on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. Just look us up. You will find us there. I feel like I'm missing something, so whatever. But as always, remember there's nothing finer in the land
Than a drunk,
And
obnoxious Georgia fan.
Georgia fan.